Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. That's down up no more. What's up, people? I know I am super late. Story of my life. What's up? What's happening out there? Cool stuff, I hope. Hope everybody's good. Where's boom. We're gonna do some Overwatch today and then get into some Apex, I'm sure. It's always Apex. Neither of the regulars are on for the Apex, so it's all good. It's all good. And then let me see if the GF is ready for the OW. Oh, why is that controller not charging? It's some bullshit. Bring that over here. Minimize. Pop up. Check the check my loot boxes. I don't like that better than what I got. Let's see what number 2's got. What's up, Miss Delina? Getting into some fun stuff in a minute. Oh, I like it. I like it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do that. And we'll do that. Alright, so we're gonna get into... What did that say about vampires up top? Vampire Baptiste is the skin we win. Alright. Let's do some of this. Let's warm up on some normal. It'll be a piece of cake. I can play this, win while eating some dinner. That's the plan. Guess we can do some public eating. Y'all can watch me eat mine. I don't know what it is. So, you know, it's probably the garlic chicken from Voila. It's like in a bag. Stir fry. Shit. We need a, I guess. Here we go. And the fun stuff starts. Come on. Come on, get some, get some. Get some. You stupid robots. And I should have been McCree. He's actually pretty satisfying to play on this. No good in regular PvP, or regular game modes, which is all PvP. And this PvE is very satisfying to pop off and get some headshots. Nice. Good job, Zenyatta. The Reaper is here. What's up, Ryan? What's going on, buddy? Not on my watch, Satan. Got it. Out of here. Oh, 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 oh. That. I mean, it is normal, but it's making me happy to see that nothing got through yet. I'm also eating dinner while this is happening. That's why I picked normal, but... Oh, I missed it. Okay. Should use my special way before that. Because you get them so quickly. So much use them as soon as you get them. But I done flubbed up. Okay. Well done, people. Well done. Let me run up here and heal this mofo. Jameson Junkenstein. Oh no! Oh no! Stuff got through. There we go. Oh, I just punched the mic. My apologies. I don't know how to... I forget how to do the thing. Look at us in the background. Die, Mercy. There we go. Piece of pasta. Not great, but oh man, son of a. Oh crap. Oh BRB, I need to go get a new floor. Why your Dixie wrecked? I don't know, bro. I don't know, Poppy. Why'd your Dixie wreck? You tell me, buddy. Sounds like a personnel problem. Need a new fork. I just knocked mine on the ground. I will beat our base.
Another video of him, and he was talking about how the rules were changed to keep Miss Fame and Violet in season 7. So I thought that was that video, but it never never like it was just like randomly like going through challenges. So I was like waiting for him to talk about it. He never did. So then I rewound it, and it seemed like this is like the sequel to that. Like what would have happened if the rules hadn't changed? So that wasn't what I was going to watch. Mwah. Hey, sexy.
All right. And we back. And we back. There we go. Invite
There we
Sento
go.
to the Kimbo Sliso.
Dang. So do we? This is still week 2. So we
Nah.
don't miss week.
It's the vampiric Baptiste. I couldn't think of his name.
I don't think I put the Junkrat thing. Oh well, he's not available anymore.
So I had somebody come in my Mixer chat and ask me, tell me why my Dixie wrecked. And I'm like, I don't know, bro.
My glasses.
Cause but I don't have my glasses on. But that would have been a good answer if I did.
It must be that sweet heart. In
Must be.
You know, I just put lotion
Oh.
on. I should have picked someone
Yeah.
easier. My hands are slippery. I have to put so much on. I'm trying to like get ahead of it this year. We'll see. Yep. Every shot I've taken so far. Yay.
Oh, I didn't realize. Oh no, we do have a tourbillon. I'm like, I didn't realize we didn't have a tourbillon. Tourbillon should be up here doing his stuff, but he's not.
No, you stay up there. Steal all the kills you can get as a call for healing
Okay.
when you need it.
All due respect, witchcraft, magic potion, no match for a good suit.
What are we on?
Hard.
Hard or easy? Seems slow.
Oh, I'm reloading. It got past me. There we go.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, I could use a little bit. Thank you.
Missing so much. And it seems like once like I hit somebody, like Torbjorn already like took the last shot of this turret. I barely have like 10 kills.
I can use some heals when you get it. A chance. Alright, there we go. There we go. Good stuff.
Baby, there we go.
You. Nice, thank you. I could use a shot of healing. Thank you.
Damn it. I'm getting fucked up by these bombs.
Yeah, I'm not doing so hot either.
Yeah. McCree's not a good warm-up.
Well, I did play one on normal while I was waiting. Oh, I need heals.
Oh shit. Yeah, you do.
Thank you. Gracias. I need heals. Thank you.
Right. Bomb guy.
I'm trying to put it out.
Yeah, my stats are gonna be fucking horrible.
Just got knocked off the wall as I was popping my special. So, don't know how many kills I got.
Oh shit.
Thank you. Yeah, those bomber guys really are. They're really angry at me.
Dude. Like, you really shouldn't have her over here, dude. Oh shit, zombie! He stole my health bomb.
Thank you. Damn. I
He
need.
got in front of me when I was throwing the bomb.
They
I
do
would've
60
killed
damage. I
some
could use more heal. Thank you. One bomb hits me. It's like.
You know. Try to avoid him.
Jamison Junkenstein.
Damn!
I need heals. Thank you.
Probably should have saved it. I'm not building it up fast enough.
Yikes.
God, it's like they're killing these guys before I even see
My servants never die. Today they do, bitch.
them. Ha! I didn't know you could do that.
No! I was killed before I could get it off. Shit.
Damn, dude.
Alright. Damn. There we go. That was tough.
I did horrible. Nobody died, so I guess
I died.
that bad. When did you die?
I don't know, like 30 seconds before the end of the game.
Oh, I didn't even see that. Did you
Yeah.
tell me?
I said, oh, I died. I was doing my special. I said I died right before I can get my special off. So, like, I used my special. I just didn't get to shoot it.
Damn, you got 152 Zomnic kills, though. That's crazy. That's so much more than you normally get for fucking...
Didn't feel like it was that many. I was like,
Yeah, that's so much more than you normally see. in
I was like
free
struggling
play.
up there.
Like him and Hanzo are normally pretty low. I'm remembering.
I just, when I played normal, I was, I forget who I was. Who the hell was I? Oh, I was Soldier. I got like 116 or something.
No,
Except I didn't play up there. Torbjorn did. So yeah, like up there is just so many.
you get so many. Hanzo.
Hope he's fine. He's just laying on the chair.
Good. Does he look like he's bleeding internally?
Not yet. I'm Torbjorn. Who you gonna be?
I don't know. I was kind of thinking Soldier. I don't know what this person's gonna pick though. Where's fucking...
Where's who?
Tracer.
She's standing. She's right
It's
over
not
there,
she-
just standing still.
So if you like really need help and aren't getting it, like then you just call me over.
Okay. Yeah, I'll come down for heals, I guess. I can do that. I can leave my turret up here. I'm coming down for some healing. Yeah. Shit. Alright, Zenyatta's got me. No, like, fuck, come on, bro. There we go, now he put it on me.
Got it. Whoa! Damn. Thought I was gonna be able to get it with my Helix, but I did not.
Oh no. Junkenstein's monster.
Oh, come on!
Should save my special for her.
Let her come down.
She's almost dead. She was focusing on my turret, so she probably wouldn't have came down.
Oh, so there's nothing you could do anyway. She was standing there. Like, it sucks so much because she starts up there, so if she gets in a fight up there, it's like, You have to like completely abandon the door to get any of it. Hey, why don't you fucking top me off?
Like, I'm okay, I'm just hoping he just tops me off. The James. Oh, I need heals. Oh shit, I'm dead.
Shit.
I'm dead
I
though.
have it.
No, I'm dead though.
Come down here. Oh shit.
I needed and got hit with like Junkrat bomb and then bomber bomb and then shit. And because of that, and because my turret's down, I didn't build up any ultimate charge. So
Oh shit, I just got fucking knocked. Damn. Oh shit. Here, baby.
oh, I should have used that on fucking Reaper. Okay.
On! Damn. Shit, I need help so bad. He's down.
Fuck, he's like wouldn't stop focusing on me. I'm dead.
Alright, me too. Damn. Fucking Zenyatta! I was using my special too. He made it! Let's see your amazing play of the game. Like, not saying
It's not amazing.
but like every play of the game with the Torbjorn is the same.
It's not amazing.
Hey, it's amazing. I just said it. Oh, I was gonna be like, how did Tracer not get up there? Like, what the fuck did she do?
Shit.
Yo, 54 Zomna kills is bad.
Who got 54?
Oh shit, how many did you have?
200. Yeah.
200? And then I had 105 and that's silver. Alright, let me take a break real
Alright.
quick. Alright. Do you want me to get out of the group?
No, I'll wait for you. That should remind me, I don't want people to be joining. Although Grim is okay to join, but he actually probably wouldn't join because he knows my girlfriend's gamer tag, but other people might not. Oh, we got a gold. New Arisa. Oh, I got the Philly Fusion skin on now. Do I replace that with this? Yeah, I think I got to. That's just too sick, you know what I mean? Pretty awesome picture. Might try to draw that. I like that a lot. I like it a lot. You okay, Opie Doggy? Why are you just laying there relaxing? You're not a laying there relaxing type of dog. I don't know. We found a new game that he can play to waste a lot of energy. We have some like old dog dishes, some plastic ones, and then we had water in it out in the living room, and they eat separately. So there's a dish, food dish, and water dish in here, and a food dish, water dish in the other room. But we had a water dish out in the living room, so if they were hanging, either one was hanging out with us, they can get a drink of water, and they eat at certain times. Well, it got flipped it upside down and was like flipping out about trying to get it back, like it was chasing around, like it was sliding all over the floor. So Kim kidding me was like, I don't know if we should let him do this, but he's burning so much energy. I'm like, let him do it then, whatever. It's an old dish. Even if he associates that dish with like a toy and not a food dish, like whatever. We just don't. He doesn't need to use it. So we figured we'll let him do it. So he burned a lot of energy, which is because he's a monster. And then we gave him like one of those rib bones a couple days ago, and he chewed the shit out of it. I mean, he had it broken in like I don't even know. It was in pieces, like shattered and inside of like an hour. And then like he just kept chewing it, breaking it apart, and I guess he was eating it, and I thought it was okay for that because of how easily he could break it apart. I thought that's what it was meant for. And I mean, some of the rawhide stuff that we used to give was pretty big. The chibs. I know you can't give a whole lot of it, but like nothing ever happened to him, so I figured, it'll be fine. Turns out dogs have actually died from blockages and stuff, so probably shouldn't have done that. So now it's like, now that he's not really jumping all over, like getting in my way and like trying to be petted, or even like my dinner I was just eating, he wasn't begging. So now I'm kind of concerned, does he have like a blockage? Does he not feel good? Or is he just burned off so much energy that he's super tired? I don't know. We did just walk him before the stream, and he's crazy on that. So he also burned energy there, but he was like pulling like normal. But hey. So I was just telling the viewers about Opie, about he's not he's very calm. He wasn't even begging when I was just eating. So I'm assuming that it's because of all the energy he burned with that dish earlier, and not because he doesn't like look sick. Like he's, when I petted him, he's interested in getting pets, but he's just chilling on the chair.
Yeah.
So I was just explaining
Okay.
what our concern was and stuff. But yes, but I think he's fine. I think he's okay. This is the dog that I wanted. The dog we had was not the dog I wanted. This is very mellow dog. I want to stand up in a little bit, I think. My hips are starting to hurt.
You should sleep in bed at night. You don't know what you're gonna need to do tomorrow.
Yeah. I assume it's just gonna be like a, I don't know.
Oh. Hopefully Opie's still mellow. We can be one big happy family.
I kind of want to be like Widowmaker, but I don't know.
Opie, do you want to be
No.
Zenyatta? I could be Soldier again.
Yeah, I'll be Soldier. Oh, he just picked Widow.
Or be Torbjorn. Yeah, 'cause that's what we need. 2 snipers. I should be Anna.
It's too late, ma'am. Uh-oh, why did my screen just go blue? Hello, can you hear me? Oh. So my Xbox just shut off. Ain't that some shit? Ain't this cool? going on? Just went through all that and it shut off again? My power brick overheats. It's very hot and then it shuts off. So twice in a row that. The fan's on it. I made sure the fan was directly on it after it happened last time. Now, so my power brick might actually be busted. I don't know. Let's try this again. Alright, we're back. If it happens again, I'm gonna have to cut the stream short. I guess can't stream without games. One day I can. I want to set up like an art stream, do a little drawing, maybe a little painting, something. That happened again. All right, that's gonna be it for me. I'm gonna have to get a new power brick. So, I want to thank everybody for coming out. Those of you that did come out, I want to apologize. 1 for being late, 2 for cutting it short, but nothing I can do. Maybe it's a sign. I got orientation tomorrow morning anyway, so it'll keep me from being on till 4 o'clock in the morning. So, but thank you to those of you that came out. It means everything to me. Whether it's Facebook, Twitch, Mixer, YouTube, whether we're here for 2 minutes or the entire 52 minutes that I streamed or whatever. But that, the engagement I get on social medias. So yeah, sorry, something just started playing in the background. So follow me on all socials. It's Mechanic on everything except Twitter. Twitter is Mechanic G. Instagram is really what I'm using most. Also follow Zero Logic on Zero Logic Gaming on Facebook, Instagram. We don't have Twitter yet. No, we don't. So yeah, Facebook, Instagram, definitely. Follow me. Follow my teammates or whatever. I'll figure it out and I'll be back on probably tomorrow. If there's an issue and I can't get a power break or whatever, I'll definitely be back by Monday. Figure it all out. So yeah, thank you again for coming out. And those of you that didn't come out, you know the deal.